The heavy oak doors of the conference room at Caldwell Manufacturing's headquarters in downtown Cleveland swung shut with a soft thud that morning in mid-October. Outside, the city's skyline gleamed under a steel-gray sky, Lake Erie winds rattling the tall windows. Inside, the air felt thick with tension, fresh coffee, faint traces of expensive cologne, and the low hum of anxious whispers among 24 board members, executives, and family shareholders gathered around the long polished table. Victor Caldwell stood at the head, his tailored navy suit sharp as ever, silver-streaked hair combed back with precision. At 62, he carried the weight of 30 years steering the family business with the kind of authority that made people sit straighter. "Thank you all for dropping everything on short notice," he began, voice steady but edged. "We're facing a defining moment for Caldwell Manufacturing. Our legacy is on the line." I sat in the far corner, laptop open, fingers tapping emails about a client project in Pittsburgh. Ethan Caldwell, that's me, 33, the one who always seemed more comfortable on airplanes and in coffee shops than in these sterile boardrooms. My cousin's baby shower invite sat unanswered in my inbox. I was calculating flight times when Victor's words pulled my focus. As most of you know, my father Elias built this company from a small machine shop 62 years ago. When he passed 8 years back, he divided shares among us. I hold 31%. My sister Laura holds 18%. My brother Thomas holds 22%. Together with cousins and extended family, we represent the heart of this legacy. Murmurs rippled. Victor had always been good at rallying the room. But then his tone darkened. The manufacturing world is evolving too fast. Our core products, precision components for auto and aerospace, are losing ground to cheaper overseas options. Labor costs climb every year. We need bold action. Sell the manufacturing division outright, raise capital, and pivot hard into high-growth tech. I'm proposing we divest the plant for $340 million. Acquire a controlling stake in Novatech Innovations, and bridge the gap with $150 million in financing. My phone vibrated, a message from my advisor. "Vote today? Need backup." I typed a quick no, eyes flicking back to Victor as he outlined the plan. Sell the division that employed 352 people. Keep only 40 in the new structure. Let the rest go. "It's painful," Victor admitted smoothly, "but survival demands it. Profitable today doesn't mean sustainable tomorrow." Aunt Laura raised her hand hesitantly. "Victor, the plant turns steady profit. Why risk everything on this tech play?" Thomas leaned forward. "What about the workers? Their families? Mortgage payments? Kids in school here in Cleveland?" Victor waved it off. "Novatech will absorb a handful. The transition is necessary. This is evolution." I stopped typing. 352 jobs. Lives built around the same floors where I'd spent college summers sweating on the line, learning every station from assembly to quality checks. Grandpa Elias had insisted on it. "You want to own something someday, Ethan? First understand the people who make it run."
Victor noticed me then. "Ethan.
Good of you to join us. These meetings aren't usually your scene." "I'm here," I said quietly. Victor smiled thinly, addressing the room. "Ethan holds a small stake, 3 or 4%, left by his grandfather. Token shares. Enough to attend. But real decisions belong to those who've lived the business." "How much exactly?" I asked. 3%. Give or take, he dismissed. "Your vote won't sway anything. We hold 71% combined. Motion needs 51. All in favor of authorizing the sale, the acquisition, and the financing," Laura said, I uncertainly. Thomas followed more firmly. Cousins echoed. Victor beamed. 74%. Carries. "Ethan, I assume you abstain." I closed the laptop slowly. Actually, I'm voting no. Victor chuckled patronizingly. Noted. Your 3% is recorded. Motion still passes. I met his eyes. About that percentage. It's not 3. I own 91% of Caldwell Manufacturing. Silence crashed over the room like a wave. Victor's face drained of color. That's ridiculous. Shares were divided among family. There's no way. Grandpa Elias placed 9% among you all, I said evenly. The remaining 91% sits in the Caldwell Family Trust. I've been sole trustee and beneficiary since turning 25, with full voting rights. It's all in the estate documents, page 47, section 12B. Several leaned in as I turned my laptop screen. Laura whispered, "We would have known. The lawyers disclosed it," I replied. "You just never read carefully enough." Thomas stammered. "Why would Dad do that?" "Because he saw this coming," I said. He spent a lifetime building a company that employed hundreds. He knew Victor would chase the next shiny trend the moment control looked possible. So he made sure it never would. Victor's face reddened. "This is a coup. You're hijacking the family business." "No," I corrected. "It's been mine for 8 years. You've just been voting under the illusion that 9% was majority." The CFO, David Lee, who'd been with the company 20 years, stood slowly. "Ethan is correct. The registry confirms the trust holds 91%. I've sent quarterly reports to it for 8 years. I nodded. I read everyone. That's how I knew this restructuring was coming. The consultants, the Novatech rumors, the efficiency reviews that were really layoff prep. Laura asked, voice trembling. "If you knew, why stay silent?" "I needed to see if he'd really go through with it," I said. "Fire 352 people. Bet the company on a leveraged buy into an industry he barely understands." Victor's confidence cracked. "Novatech is a growth play. Their user metrics," I cut in, "are collapsing. Revenue down year over year. Customer churn accelerating. Burn rate at $42 million annually. 18 months of runway left. No clear profitability path." I had my team at Summit Strategy Group run the full due diligence. Every financial, every footnote, every risk disclosure. Victor scoffed. "Your team? You travel. Work from laptops in airports. What analysts do you have?" "I own Summit Strategy Group," I said calmly. 45 employees. 3 offices: Chicago, Atlanta, Cleveland. We consult on manufacturing optimization. 18 million in annual revenue last year. When I'm traveling and typing, I'm meeting clients, reviewing operations, closing projects. The room fell deathly quiet. David Lee reviewed his tablet. "As controlling shareholder, Ethan has authority to veto major actions like this restructuring." "I veto the acquisition and financing," I stated. "The manufacturing sale can proceed only if a buyer commits to retaining all employees and local operations." Victor protested desperately. "No buyer will pay that price with those conditions." "Then we don't sell," I replied. "We keep the plant running. We keep the 352 people whose families depend on us." Margins are at 12% on $280 million revenue. That's $33.6 million profit. Solid for manufacturing. You're not saving the company, Victor. You're chasing a quick score. The numbers hung heavy. Laura looked stricken. "I voted for it. I trusted you, Victor." "I'm sorry, Ethan." "You trusted family," I said gently. "That's human. But trust needs verification when hundreds of livelihoods are involved." Thomas asked quietly, "What now?" "Now we run the company Grandpa built," I answered. "David, I want an internal strategic review, no outside consultants. Understand where we can invest in equipment, training, organic growth." "Yes," Sir. I turned to Victor. You can stay involved.
But not as CEO.
Grandpa left that seat empty intentionally. David will serve interim while we find the right leader, someone who values analysis over ego, employees over flash. Victor's voice rose. You can't do this.
I already have, I said.
David. Minute the veto. The motion fails. Minutes later, chaos erupted in whispered arguments as I gathered my things. Victor emerged red-faced from the room just as the elevator doors opened. I stepped in, heart steady for the first time in months. The ride down was silent, but my mind raced through summers on the factory floor, Grandpa Elias walking beside me, pointing out workers' names, explaining how decisions rippled through families. Upstairs, Victor tried rallying relatives. He's too young, disconnected, travels constantly. He'll ruin us. But the estate documents circulated. Grandpa's explicit words reached everyone. Control to Ethan because he understood worth measured in sustained lives. Not risky bets. 2 weeks later, the internal review confirmed stability with targeted investments, no debt, no layoffs. I approved $18 million for equipment upgrades promising 18% efficiency gains, product line expansion, quality improvements, training programs. Victor sat silent in the back at the follow-up board meeting, resentment simmering. The next months tested everyone. Victor whispered doubts at family gatherings, painting me as the inexperienced wanderer. But numbers spoke louder. Efficiency climbed. New product lines added $2 million in revenue within quarters. Employee retention hit record highs once word spread. No layoffs loomed. I split time between Summit strategy projects and Caldwell oversight, applying lessons from client optimizations directly. David Lee and I met weekly, aligning on strategy while major calls remained mine. One afternoon, Victor cornered me in the parking lot after meeting. You made me look foolish in front of everyone. You did that yourself, I replied. I just refused to enable a disastrous move. Novatech will explode in value, he insisted. I held up my phone later when news broke. Novatech filed for bankruptcy. Assets worthless. I forwarded the article silently. Hours later, his reply came. You were right. I was wrong. Sorry. It wasn't much, but it cracked open a door. Laura invited me to dinner with Thomas. Over home-cooked pot roast in her suburban kitchen. Apologies flowed. I should have dug deeper, Laura admitted. Question the pitch instead of trusting Victor blindly. Thomas added. Why hide the trust all these years? We could have collaborated. Would you have? I asked. At last year's holidays. You joked about my laptop lifestyle needing a real job. Thomas. Laura. You described me as the family's struggling consultant. Victor called me naive repeatedly. I stayed quiet to observe what you truly valued, legacy or liquidity. Silence fell. I continued. Grandpa gave me time. Full vesting at 30. 5 years to watch. Learn.
Prepare.
I saw Victor's greed. Laura's caution. Thomas's impulsiveness. But also genuine care for family. That's why you stay shareholders. Receive dividends. Advise on decisions. Final authority stays with the trust, Grandpa's design. They absorbed it. Laura asked about Summit. I explained bootstrapping it with plant savings, growing through manufacturing expertise. Grandpa groomed you quietly, Thomas realized. He taught me companies are communities, I said. Destroy them for 25% odds at bigger returns?
No.
Victor found a niche later in business development, his energy useful under oversight. Laura moved into HR, her protectiveness serving well. Thomas led R&D, channeling ideas productively. 6 months post-meeting, Novatech's shutdown confirmed my analysis. Revenue at Caldwell climbed steadily toward $312 million. Margins to 15%. Investments paid off, no debt. Organic growth. David approached after a quarterly meeting. Board wants you as formal chairman. You're deciding anyway. I run Summit, I said. But I'll serve as chairman. You as CEO. Weekly alignments. My final sign-off on majors. We shook on it. Announcement emphasized stability. Employees. Sustainable growth. Victor called. Chairman at 33. Feels good. Feels like responsibility, I answered. We were both partly right. You saw a need to evolve. I insisted on responsible pace. Maybe combine going forward. He sounded surprised but grateful. Your grandfather chose wisely. 2 years on, the company thrived. Retention at 94%. Victor excelled in vetted development. Family dinners grew warmer. At one annual gathering, Victor raised his glass. To Ethan, who saw what we missed. To Elias, who trusted his grandson. I raised mine. To Grandpa, who showed success lives in stable jobs. Strong communities. Lasting companies, not flash deals. Reflecting now, I see how close we came. Victor's plan nearly dismantled 62 years of legacy, one risky acquisition away from destroying hundreds of families. My small-seeming stake proved decisive because it was never small, just quiet. Grandpa understood quiet power, patient observation, preparation, acting precisely when needed. He taught that companies sustain lives first. I followed his roadmap. Factory summers built empathy and knowledge, launching Summit Hone strategy. Assumptions nearly cost everything. The traveling laptop kid, judged irrelevant. Appearances deceive. Due diligence. Employee focus. Sustainable choices endure. Today, Caldwell stands stronger. Families secure. Legacy intact. The moral lingers. In family, business, life. True control often hides in preparation and principle, not volume or flash. What would you protect when the moment comes? Would you see the quiet power before it's too late?